There's been a lot of local talk recently about guns, gun stores, gun shows, and gun laws. A gun store opened in Harrison. There is a gun show this weekend at the Westchester County Center. A county law banning gun shows on county property passed, just barely, but isn't likely to make it past the county executive. Another county gun law has been proposed setting procedures for gun shows in the county, and the town of Mamaroneck held a hearing last night on a law banning guns on town property. And that's all just in the last 3 months. So tonight, we're talking guns in our community, and we want to hear from you. Where and how should guns be sold or traded? Can and should local communities restrict people with county concealed firearm carry permits? And how do you feel about guns at parks and playing fields? Why do you have guns? Why are guns or gun control important to you? So make your view heard. You can call, email, or tweet. The contact information's on your screen. Our guests this evening are County Legislator Catherine Parker and town resident Mark Lane, who spoke at the town's public hearing last night. Catherine, we're going to start with you, both of you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Thanks. Why don't you update us on what is going on with the gun show at the county center? It's not a county gun show.
Sure. So let me just give some quick background. In 1999, the previous county executive, Andy Spano, right after Columbine, by executive order, had prohibited gun shows from happening at the county center, just not on municipal, our municipal property. And that stayed in effect until Rob Astorino came into office in 2010 and said he would bring the gun shows back to the county center. In 2012, after Sandy Hook, there was a decision made by the county executive and also the promoter of the gun show there to not have the show in January 2013, and there hasn't been one since. What the legislature would like to do is actually make sure, again, going forward, that our policy is consistent with the policy that we had for 11 years, and that we, people are entitled to their guns, but that we not have gun shows on our municipal property. They can have them, their gun shows elsewhere.
Well, it seems that we hadn't heard about this until last month. Was this all, a sudden thing?
It was in that apparently the contract for the gun show had been signed at least 6 months earlier, and the executive branch of government is in charge of that, the administration's in charge of that, but there hadn't been any conversation with the Board of Legislators that was the plan for this January. So it was right, actually, within days of the holidays, Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, that the announcement came that, in fact, there would be a gun show, and yes, this weekend.
So a law was passed by the county legislators. Why don't you tell me about that? Because it was a very close vote.
Yes, it passed 9-8, and it did fall right along party lines. All 9 Democrats voted in favor of it, and all 8 Republicans, or I should say 7 Republicans, 1 conservative party member voted against it.
Okay. Then that is that there shouldn't be gun shows at the county center because it's county property.
Correct. And what's really interesting about that split, that 9-8 vote, is that there are 7 Democrats that are members of the Democratic Caucus. There are 2 members that are 2 Democrats that generally vote with the Republicans, but they both had very strong feelings on this. One of them is legislator Virginia Perez from Yonkers, who lost her brother to gun violence, and it really was what was the motivation for her to get into public service to begin with.
There's also another law pending or being considered by the county board. What is that?
Yes, and to be clear, it doesn't preclude that we cannot pass our legislation to prohibit gun shows. It's a law, though, that would cover not just gun shows at public space, but also private space. And that private space could even include, if you have a retail establishment that has, so you've probably been to a trunk show at a clothing store. Well, gun stores, if they have, let's say, a manufacturer wants to come in and do a special promotion, it would actually cover that gun store as well. So it's for any event type of activity.
And it's procedures
yes,
that have to be followed.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, I know we were advising you before about what the county proposed legislation is. Do you have a feel for it one way or another as a gun aficionado?
I haven't been to a gun show in many years, possibly because there haven't been any around here in many years. I will go to this one. I'm looking forward to it. I think it was interesting what Catherine was saying, though, that all of these attempts to block gun shows seem to have been in reaction to some tragic event that happened. And I think one of the problems with these kinds of reactions is that they're not rationally related to the problem. You're not going to cure, you're not going to stop Sandy Hooks by banning gun shows at the county center. These kinds of laws are kind of feel-good things that politicians, frankly, want to do to make themselves feel good and to make themselves look good to their constituents. That's my view. They don't accomplish anything. They're certainly not going to stop gun violence. And it's particularly interesting that even the way you explained it, it wasn't as if someone identified a problem that was happening at the county center that related to gun shows. Somebody identified a completely unrelated problem somewhere else, and that was their reaction to it. Gun shows are not evil. Hunters go to them, police officers go to them, soldiers go to them, I go to them, sportsmen go to them, and they're really a fine thing to do, to show a legal product that is available to the public. You know, we're not handing out weapons at these things. Everybody who buys a gun in this country must go through a federal background check. Every time I buy a gun, I have to go through an FBI check. And you're not going to have that. That's not going to go away. So the ban on gun shows accomplishes nothing. On the other hand, it does potentially infringe people's constitutional rights. So that's my general reaction to this proposal.
So it's interesting, and I hear people get really, nervous about, Second Amendment, and nobody wants to touch anyone's right to bear arms. But the Second Amendment does not mean that you necessarily are entitled to a gun show at municipal space. It's just that simple. And gun culture is something that Westchester County really doesn't have. It's very different from other areas of this country. There are people, of course, that, like yourself, that enjoy that, and that's fine. But it isn't representative of the larger populace. And really what our prohibition of the gun shows on our municipal property is saying that, we don't want to in any way help promote that culture. And it's strange when you look at the county center and you see the what's coming, and you see the shows, and everything is very family oriented, and then you see the gun show, which just doesn't seem to be consistent with what the county center is. So that's really the crux of it.
I'm going to interrupt because we have a question from a viewer. Which is based on Westchester County Center's prohibited items and weapons policy. Laser pointers, noise makers, whistles, air horns of any type, coolers, bottles, cans, drugs, and weapons of any kind are allowed in the county center. We're being told that's the policy. The questions for you, Catherine. Why are guns allowed inside the county center for a gun show? And can you provide the community with an update regarding the gun store that's located in the heart of the Harrison Business District and a stone's throw away from churches and elementary school, and elementary school? And that's a question we received from a viewer.
Sure. So let me go to the first part. And it sounds like I agree with the viewer that it does seem inconsistent with our policy. So you'll get no argument there. The Harrison, let's go to Harrison for a moment. The gun store is open and is operating, and I think the town board is looking at making sure that the store is complying with all of the local policies and really, it's a question at this point. I don't think it was an ideal place for a gun store, and that also is based on the fact that Harrison's working really hard to revitalize its downtown.